appreciation, what's your name? Nancy, for Pastor Nancy Hastings. Sehested. Hallelujah. Now, before we start, one thing you may not know about Pastor Nancy Hastings Sehested, maybe one or two, is she has spent hours and hours and hours volunteering at the shelter for stuffed animals. And so to allay her fears tonight, we want to assure you, Pastor Nancy, that no stuffed animal was harmed in the production of this tribute.
Hallelujah.
So, I am your servant of ceremonies tonight. In the circle of mercy, there are no masters. We have learned that from Pastor Nancy. And I will lead this evening, hopefully quickly. And just in case, knowing that there are assorted Baptist ministers here, I have a hook. In the case someone feels led to preach, you will be escorted from the building. So, now I want you to assure you, Pastor Nancy, that the Circle of Mercy has spared no expense. We don't have a budget. To present to you this evening this tribute, this celebration, a tribute. The tribute and the tribute. So, tonight, to start us off, we have spared no expense to bring to you tonight's episode of the favorite game show from across the nation, from Pickens to Mars Hill. That is south of the border and north of the border, Candler to Marion. Yes, I'm sure you've guessed it by now. It's time for And our host tonight will be the infamous Stan Viewfair.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, and all of you viewing out there at home from Pickens to Marion. And hey there, Mercy Jeopardy fans. Let's meet tonight's contestants, shall we?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, contestant number 1 made his way to Asheville aboard the solar and wind-powered Creation Care Express. Please welcome Scott Free.
Thank you, Stan. It's such a thrill to meet you. I have always wanted to be on Mercy Jeopardy.
Yeah, here you are. Contestant number 2 arrives fresh from the backwoods of Reynolds Mountain. Let's welcome Aiden and Abetten.
Oh boy, Stan. I sure hope that I can control my boundless enthusiasm and win this thing.
Yes. And finally, Jeopardy fans, let's say hello to contestant number 3, fresh from a certain Caribbean island and hoping to get back there before too long, Kim Cadiddlehopper.
Dan, this is a dream come true. I'm so ready to play.
Well then, contestants, it's time to take a look at tonight's game board. As always, this one-of-a-kind miracle of high technology and cutting-edge digital innovation is brought to us by our sponsor, Compute Churchification Incorporated, a wholly, albeit tenuously, owned a subsidiary of the Alliance of Baptists and the United Church of Christ. Okay, contestants. Tonight's tantalizing categories are Preach It, Behind Bars, Hidden Talents, Uh-oh, and Who'da Thunk It? Scott, you get the first choice.
Stan, I think I want to try behind bars for 25 cents.
Okay. A little early on my buzzer there. This former prison chaplain was given some colorful nicknames. Among them, Jezebel. Aiden.
That's easy. It's Al Capone. Who is Al Capone?
Sorry, Aiden. Kim.
Who is the Hunchback of Notre Dame?
Not exactly. Scott.
Who's Marjorie Taylor Greene?
No score this round. The correct question was, who's Nancy? Aiden, you get the next choice.
All right, maybe I'll have some luck with hidden talents. Let's try hidden talents for a quarter.
Hidden talents for a quarter. Trusty game board person. This church potluck veteran can recite the recipe for Texas chocolate sheet cake in her sleep. Scott.
Betty Crocker. And who is Betty Crocker?
Aiden.
Who is Martha Stewart?
No. Kim.
Who is Hannibal the Cannibal?
No, sorry. Good tries, but the correct answer, or the correct question is, who's Nancy? Kim, you get our next choice.
Oh, I get to pick. Okay, I choose Preach It for a quarter.
Preach it for a quarter. Here's your clue. This wily Baptist has preached for more than 4 decades without a license. Aiden.
Who is Omer Gantry?
Kim.
Who are Tammy Faye and Jim Baker?
Sorry. Scott.
Who is Jerry Falwell?
Pretty close, actually, but the correct question is, who's Nancy? Let's see if you'll have better luck with another item. Go ahead, Aiden.
All right. I think I need to go bigger. So let's go big. Let's try Who'da Thunk It for $1.
Ooh, going big. Who'da thunk it all the way down for $1? Well, looks like there may be a theme here. During her controversial installation as the first woman pastor of Prescott Memorial Baptist in Memphis, a man paraded down the center aisle waving a Bible and shouting, "Whore of Babylon! Whore of Babylon!" Kim.
It's got to be, who is the Southern Baptist Convention?
No, but I have to admire your thought process here, Kim. But the question should have been, who's Nancy? Scott, why don't you have another go?
Thanks, Stan. Let's try behind bars for 50 cents.
Going with the behind bars category, going down for 50 cents in this category. When a congregant in her maximum security prison chapel claimed that she was one of the 7 abominations of hell, she replied without hesitation, "Name the other 6. I'd like to know my competition." Scott.
I know, so it's got to be who are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse?
Kim.
Who are 7 brides for 7 brothers?
No. Aiden.
Who are Happy Sneezy Bill Beat Up?
Those are not bad attempts. Well, actually, they are. But the correct response is, who's Nancy? Well, our next choice goes to Kim.
Thanks, Stan. I want to pick Uh-oh for $1.
Uh-oh. First clue in this category of uh-oh for $1. While waist deep in a mountain stream beneath a lovely waterfall, she spoke her first ever baptismal blessing. stepped backwards into a deep hole and plunged both herself and the baptismal candidate underwater. Aiden.
Okay, clumsy but well-intentioned. I'll have to say, who is Lucy Ricardo of I Love Lucy?
Ken.
Who is Forrest Gump?
Scott.
Who is Charlie Brown?
A noble effort, but the response we're looking for is, who's Nancy? Scott, how about taking another shot?
Let's try behind bars again for $5.
Oh, going all the way down to behind
Yeah.
bars for $5. The
Big.
last clue in that category. A prayer circle of Native American prisoners held a special naming ceremony to honor this prison chaplain, bestowing the name Kicking Doe because they said she's gentle as a doe, but knows how to kick. Any guesses? Yes.
Who's Geronimo?
Who's Bruce Lee?
Who's Bambi? No, the Rocket. No, who are the Rockettes?
Hey, gee, I'm afraid you're wrong again, one and all. Let's see if our studio audience can do any better. Let's see if they have the response we're looking for. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Who's Nancy? Who's Nancy? Indeed. Thank you, contestants. Thank you, darling. Thank you, studio audience.
If you would like to be a contestant on the next show, put in the prayer basket next Sunday, and we will draw names for you. All right. Thank you, Stan, and the contestants. Now, as you came in, you were asked to write a poem or lyric or a story, something a little less than a novel, to put in a jar. And so now, Rebecca will come with those selections and invite the authors to read from their writings. Rebecca.
So I'm going to invite about 3 people up at a time. So the first person I need is Phoebe, and then Mark. That Mark.
Real loud, Rebecca.
And Annie Beckham. Phoebe, Mark, and Annie Beckham. Is Phoebe not here?
Phoebe's outside.
Oh, okay. Phoebe, can you come over here? And Phoebe, I'm gonna hold this for you. Can you read yours?
A poem for Nancy by Phoebe. Roses are red, violets are blue. They are good, but not as good or as kind as you.
All right, and you can give it to Nancy. And if I could have Matthew come up next.
This is a limerick for Nancy. There once came a minister of mercy and joined with a Joyce from Hershey. They found a kin and invited him in, and we are all none for the worsey.
This is a haiku for Nancy. Daredevil sermons with fire from the Spirit sends love on the wind.
If I could have her sister, who wrote on pink, come up next. And Rich, Nancy's favorite.
Uh-oh. As he wrote it. Here, you do it here. I got it.
A poem for Nancy by Matthew G. Roses are red, violets are blue. You are the best pastor that I ever knew.
And if I could have Missy come up.
There was was a young girl named Nancy who never was all that fancy. In her own groove, she's on the move. You might say Nancy is antsy.
And if I could have Jonathan come up and get a line.
This is a haiku. What's next for you, Nance? Pickling peppers, perhaps? Or maybe just wine?
Below good, they said. Little did they know that was the goal all along.
I think I have the wrong Jonathan.
Oh, a different job.
A different Jonathan. We are lucky we have two Jonathans.
Mm-hmm.
A poem for Nancy by Mark and Jonathan in the Lord of the Rings style. One Nancy to rule us, one Nancy to find us, one Nancy to bring us out of the darkness and in the light and bond us.
And if I could have Lily and the people that helped her write this blue one. And Kim Christman is the last one.
This is also in the Lord of the Rings style. It's a haiku. The precious Nancy. We likes it. Yes, yes, we does. Hashtag Gollum poetry.
A poem for Nancy. Today we are having a festival, and we want it to be the best of all. It's for Nancy, whose gifts really give us olives. That's why she's called Chaplain Celestial.
And I would like to thank the other about 15 people who wrote poems, and here are those poems for you, Nancy.
Thank you.
At this time, we will ask Mark Nornex to come and make a presentation.
Oh, love will not let me go. I rest my weary soul in thee. I give thee back the life I owe, that in thy ocean depths its flow may richer, fuller be. O light that followest all my way, I yield my flickering torch to thee. My heart restores its borrowed ray, and in thy sunshine's blaze its day may brighter, fairer be. O joy that seekest me through pain, I cannot close my heart to thee. I trace the rainbow through the rain and feel the promise is not vain, that morn shall tearless be. O cross that liftest up my head, I dare not ask to hide from thee. I lay in dust, life's glory dead, and from the ground there blossoms red life that shall in this
Oh, gather up the brokenness, bring it to me now. The fragrance of those promises you never dared to vow. The splinters that you carry, the cross you left behind. Come healing of the body, come healing of the mind, and let the heavens hear it, the penitential hymn. Come healing of the spirit, come healing of the limb.
Behold the gates of mercy in arbitrary space, and none of us deserving the cruelty or the grace. Oh, solitude of longing, where love is being confined. Come healing of the body, come healing of the mind. Oh, see the darkness yielding that tore the light apart. Come healing of the reason, come healing of the heart. Oh, troubled dusk concealing an undivided love. The heart beneath is teaching to the broken heart above. Let the heavens falter, let the earth proclaim. Come healing of the altar, come healing of the name.
Oh, longing of the branches to lift the little bud. Oh, longing of the arteries to purify the blood.
And let the heavens hear it, the penitential hymn. Come healing of the spirit, come healing of the limb. Oh, let the heavens hear it, the penitential hymn. Come healing of the spirit, come healing of the limb.
How many times have I stood by the river and could not see to the other side, hoping like Moses the clouds would be lifted, stretch out my hand, the waters divide, to lay back the darkness, let in the light, take all the wrongs and make them all right. And if I could lay down these blues for good, for so long I'm standing alone at the crossroads, praying for someone to give me a ride, watching as slowly the shadows come crawling, but nobody knows me, they all pass me by. Lay back the darkness, let in the light, take all the wrongs and make them all right. And if I could lay down these blues for good, all born born to trouble in troubling times. This world has a way of wearing us down. But the earth keeps on spinning, night turns to day, and every new morning mercies come around to lay back the darkness, let in the light, take all the wrongs and make them all right. And if I could lay down these blues for good, surely I would lay down these blues for good. Lay down these blues, lay 'em all down.
I should put peas in there. Lentils. No, it's lentils.
You're on.
Okay, Caleb, I want you to know that we have a pot of lentils simmering on the stove, and it will be there. Yum. Look at this. We got it. And we have got them ready for you. We're going to keep going for that. And Asher, I just want you to know this one special thing. We are working on getting our services to 3 hours. So far, we're up to an hour and a half. But maybe by next month, we'll hit 2 hours, and by the time you get back, we'll be up to 3 hours. So we can hardly wait for you to come back. We love you. We miss you. Y'all take care and have a very Merry Christmas.
Follows on the lentil theme a little bit. You know what they say, beans, beans, the musical fruit. The more you eat, the more you sing, right? So we've been working very hard on a song, but we're not, this is not really a sort of choir sort of congregation. So we're kind of a choir in the midst. So folks who've been singing with us the last little bit, if you can stand up, we're going to sing through a verse of this, and then it's printed in your bulletin that was on your seat. So jump in on the second verse of How Can I Keep From Singing? Because I've led worship enough music in this congregation to know that you'll do it anyway. So just go ahead and know that you have permission to start singing the second time through. My life flows on in endless song of lover's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, since Christ is Lord of heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing? The peace of Christ makes fresh my heart, a fountain ever springing. All things are mine since I am loved. How can I keep from singing? No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, since Christ is Lord of heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing?
Well, yes.
Tributes to Pastor Nancy. And the first will be her little sister, Abigail Hastings, from all the way from New York. We told her she could just call if she wanted to come.
I'm seeing all your hairstyles. Braid of hair.
This kind of assignment requires more than just me. So my cloud of witnesses will join me. Our own angel band with Kathy and Eileen. We make up the Yayas. You may have heard of us. We are infamous. And some of us have known Nancy for at least 33 years. And I have known her for 105. But it seems like yesterday, doesn't it? August 26th tends to be historic. On August 28th, excuse me, I'm not quite in the right time zone. August 28th is historic. On August 28th, 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his I Have a Dream speech. On this day in 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit, and now we party for one who is both dreamer, a mover and shaker, and like a hurricane, a force of nature. But let's backtrack a bit, shall we? Did you know that Nancy was one of the ugliest brides in history? Now, don't be fooled by the wedding photo that was taken 6 weeks after the wedding. Because she's in a beautiful dress that her mother-in-law made. She has beautifully coiffed hair that she probably rolled up on orange cans the night before. But a beautiful bride she wasn't. She and Kenny got married at the UN Chapel where Manhattan Baptist was meeting. She processed in to the music of King Miedema, and soon thereafter the waterworks started. She turned to me, the maid of honor, and asked if I had a Kleenex. No, I cried. And then we were both gone. She cried through the whole thing, and it was watery, and she was red-nosed, and yes, it was the ugly cry. So let's be sure that doesn't happen today or tomorrow. Be hanky ready. My first memory of Nancy, other than the times that she made me sit on her feet when she was cold at night, or the time she chipped her tooth because we were playing leapfrog in the hallway. My first memories of Nancy was of her leaving, always going somewhere, doing something, always moving. The family joke was it took a prison to keep her in one place for very long. But how could she not be moving all the time? She had places to go and things to do. It wasn't enough to be a queen and girls auxiliary like the rest of us. She had to be a queen with scepter and then a queen regent. Or did you do queen regent in service even? Possibly. Since that time, she alone has earned a new GA badge. It's called Plenipotentiary of Mischief, Mayhem, and Disruption. It wasn't that long ago that I learned that when Nancy went to Japan at the tender age of 16 as a foreign exchange student, she went without our parents' approval. In fact, she had to pay her own way to go there. So after many a bake sale, she was able to make this wonderful trip. But bear in mind that we were not rebel girls. We were good Texas This God-fearing Baptist young ladies with white gloves and white Bibles on Sunday doing what we were told. Except when we weren't. The pool of adventures and new lands was just too great. And in this small rebellion, perhaps the first of many to come, Nancy opened new worlds to all of us and gave us our much beloved Japanese sister, Shizui, who also sang at that wedding and made her cry ugly. When Nancy had a concerning thought about her own girls, who were perfect in every way, but every once in a while she did worry about something they were doing, I would say to her, let's tell them how fun it was to tell Mom and Dad you were transferring to yet another college. As in every 4 years there was a new college. I mean, why not taste them all? But she landed in New York City, thank you Jesus, because she paved the way for me to be there all these years. And then, after toying with anthropology and other worldly things, she and Kenny set their sights on ministry and they went to Union Seminary. We all lived together for 1 year, sharing a house with Ken and Jane Miedema, their son Aaron, and Jess, who was only a year old at the time and every bit as darling as you remember, as you can imagine, as I remember. It will come as no surprise to learn that Nancy's master's thesis was on storytelling. Many companies, including the one that my roommate currently works for, teaches storytelling now to corporate types, now that they've discovered the power of it. But Nancy knew early on, those Bible stories grabbed her, had their way with her, and continued to do so, a rich golden mine for how we live and how we should live. It's little wonder that one of her favorite hymns is what? I love to tell the story. And apparently stories love her. They seek her out like she's some kind of magical story magnet. Even in her first days of ministry in Decatur, Georgia, nothing went normally. In her first tenebrae service, lights were low and suitably somber, and it came time for communion. She lifted the bread high. This is my body broken for you. No breaking. A little more muscle to it. This is my body broken for you. Ugh. No breaking. She worried that since she was the first female minister that media had ever seen, they wouldn't think women were physically up for the job. Not even enough to break bread. But there was a reason. She had brought bread from home that had been frozen, and she had not known the effects of microwave on bread, which turns it rather rubbery. So she shed her own blood that night. And then many other stories as well. One of her first funerals where the son came late, he ran to the graveside, threw himself on the coffin and, oh mother, don't leave me. Yeah, that's an easy one. But there were the stories from prison. And many a night she would matter-of-factly send us an email about what happened that day. And we would say, that's not normal, that's crazy. But she soldiered on, remarkably so, and had the presence of mind to write these stories down so that a book could take shape, so that we might know the lives and challenges of prison life more intimately. Know a person's story, their full story, and you have a better chance at finding solutions to misery and injustice, and that continues to be our prayer. Every once in a while I get an itch to possibly go to seminary, to follow the clergy path of the family, but then I'd call Nancy and I'd say, hey, what'd you do today? And she would tell me, and that was plenty enough to quash any of those kinds of ideas. I mean, churching is hard, y'all. My son Nate was only about 4 years old when he announced, church meetings are a crime. I had to agree with him. It's hard work, completely exasperating, but she's hung in. She loves stories, digging deep, loves telling them, but she worries about whether she gave you gospel good news, judging herself way too harshly. She worried through your worries, taking to heart we share our mutual woes, our mutual burdens bear. Blessed be that time. She loves you. Minding the flock was something she cherished. Be in moments of profound grief or boundless joy with people is to be on holy ground. She gravitated to it naturally when I would have said long ago, hey, good luck with that. In other words, she has a pastor's heart. I am forever being schooled by her. And she took this most challenging of occupations at a time when men shall and did revile her. The blessed be persecuted does not feel blessed when you are persecuted. But you will never find a more eloquent, moving, articulate, or meaningful answer to why she belonged in the holy and set aside ones for ministry than what she said on October 19th, 1987, when she stood before the Shelby County Baptist Association in Memphis while her church was being disfellowshipped for knowingly calling a woman. It was a moment when time stopped, the assembly fell silent, and she answered the question she put to herself, by what authority do I preach? It was as clear then as it is now. It was never by authority of the church or of mice and men. It was indeed by the author and finisher of her life, the Spirit that blew through her to this calling. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, she testified, because God has anointed me to preach good news. And that day, the scripture was fulfilled in their hearing. As I said, we needed a cloud of witnesses, and I would like you to meet these friends and what they say about Nancy.
What do I think of when I think of Nancy? I think of several phone calls in the late 80s. Nikki, this is Nancy Hastings Sehested from Memphis. The summer previous to those phone calls, I met and briefly visited with Nancy, Kenny, and Linda during the Southern Baptist Convention held in New Orleans. When those phone calls came, I was thrilled to get a phone call from one of my heroes in women in ministry. Little did I know how much I would be blessed through the years by visits from Nancy and Kenny, Jessica, Elena, members of Nancy's extended family, and her Memphis and Virginia friends, and then still more of Nancy's family. Thank you for sharing your family, your friends, and especially yourself with me. The privilege and blessing has been all mine.
My name is Linda, and I met Nancy in 1977 at a conference called A Convocation on Women in Church-Related Vocations. Now, you have got to give it to the Southern Baptists, and I was raised for one, a convocation on women in church-related vocations. They do know how to do irony. Now, in 1977, as you will recall, Nancy and I were rocking some big Texas hair. Now, not real big, not by Texas standards, but Nancy's was blonde and beautiful and halfway down her back. Yeah, it was great. And mine was not so great. It was like brown and to my shoulders, and wiry and frizzy and looked like it might conduct electricity at any given moment. But just your average Texas big hair. So here we were, two Texas women with average Texas hair, ready to set the world on fire for Jesus. So when I think of Nancy, because that was our assignment, what do we think of when we think of Nancy? I think of fire. because, hey, you have never passed a burning bush that you did not want to stop and turn aside and say, let us see what this might have to say to us. Can I get a witness? If she sees a burning bush, you know, Exodus 3 says there is bush and it's burning and it is not consumed, right? Nancy sees those all over the place. You know, maybe a grasshopper, maybe your average, ordinary wildflower. Or just this morning, I am not making this up, a spider. Hey, this spider right out here in my front yard. We need to look at this. And this is because Nancy believes there is holy presence in the world already. And we need to attend to it and pause and see what there might be to learn. Elizabeth Barrett Browning, the British poet of the 19th century, said, "Earth's crammed with heaven, and every common bush afire with God. But only those who see take off their shoes. The rest sit around and pluck blackberries." Our sister Nancy is all about the ways in which earth is crammed with heaven. Thanks be to God.
My name is Annie Beckham, and some of this is a bit impromptu because I didn't quite understand what we were supposed to do, and I thought Abigail was going to just mix this in with her roast and toast. Yes, here we are. I first met Nancy at Prescott Memorial Baptist Church in Memphis. Sometime in the 80s, I don't remember the exact date, and was very touched by her message of good news, being raised a Southern Baptist and baptized with enormous amounts of guilt. It was a wonderful, wonderful message. And it sounds to me like she's continued to spread that message near and far. So when I think of Nancy, I think of all the laughter she brings us, some planned and some not so planned. Her alter ego has journeyed into costumes of biblical kings and queens, fuzzy, soft creatures, mystical wizards, and raging politicians. She is better than Dr. Science with her children's story experiments, which sometimes blow out or fizzle out. But often, those are the ones you remember the most. She can be a great master of ceremonies, much better than Price is Right, pulling people from the comfort of their pew to dance around a beloved church member or risk their life as a character in one of her children's stories. She happily rips up the Bible and religious hypocrisy and creates showers of blessings with water guns, while being the jester extraordinaire with occasionally rings on her fingers and bells on her toes. She offers much laughter wherever she goes. Thank you, Nancy.
There have indeed been several orb spiders that have been spinning their webs in Nancy's yard this week. I'd never seen one before, and they're just gorgeous, brightly colored, yellow markings on their back. You can't miss them. They spin a new web every day, intricate and beautiful and efficient. And then they add the most intriguing middle spiral or zigzag. It's bright white and just stunning. It seems a fitting reminder of Nancy, spinning webs of story, a big personality that's hard to miss, and then something more added, a little more beauty, a little more whimsy. Let's face it, the girl is extra. And all that extraness has blessed this fellowship for these past near 20 years. This chapter of your journey together closes and a new one begins. How wonderful that is. Thank you for for taking such good care of her and giving her the privilege of serving you. You know she will still be good for a story when one is needed, punctuated by that infectious laugh of hers. For now, she steps away and will devote her time to a new cookbook, Snoop Dogg From Crook to Cook. A cook just like her. Maybe you'll see her next in her own food truck parked right outside.
Now a word from Mark Seiler.
Uh-oh.
This could be trouble.
Sure. Yeah, maybe that's easier. So I think people will recognize a theme here. I've been tasked to say a few words about Nancy's time in prison. As everybody knows already, in addition to serving this congregation for almost 20 years, Nancy worked as a full-time prison chaplain at a maximum security prison for men for 40 of those years. Actually, what was it really? 15, something like that? I can't remember. Most of the time, she was doing that. I remember that when I began my time working alongside Nancy for just a few of those years, she gave me the metaphor that being a prison chaplain is kind of like being a village priest. The prison, she surmised, is really like a small village. And your job as a chaplain is to offer yourself as a priest of sorts to any and all in need of rituals, worship, spiritual counseling, as they try and make sense out of a crazy-making existence. It's a fine metaphor. But as I got to watch Nancy up close and attempt this myself, it betrays a fundamental truth. You got to be way more than a priest in a village. You got to be a daggum superhero. Especially if you do it for 40 years. However long she did it. And that is exactly what Nancy did, and I'm going to tell you the truth. Now, like all superheroes, Nancy will deny this. It's what they do, right? They have to do the whole, me a superhero? No. I'm not Superman, I'm Clark Kent. I'm not Wonder Woman, I'm Diana Prince. Chaplain Sehested will say the same thing. I was just Chaplain Sehested the whole time. Proof to my pudding. Nancy was and is a superhero. Truth is, though, Nancy is not just any superhero. She's the Avenger of all Avengers. She got a little piece of all of them and some. Like Superman, she was able to leap over insults like below good and whore of Babylon in a single bound. Like the Black Panther, her enhanced senses allowed her to prowl concrete hallways and subversively nudge people towards healing, hope, and connection. And like Wonder Woman, even without the cool boots, bracelets, and leotard. God, if only they let you do that. Can you just imagine what you could do?
Tomorrow.
Even without the cool boots, bracelet, and leotard, she was able to lasso many of the weapons of cruelty in that place before they wreaked their havoc. But here's the thing. None of that was even her superpower. Friends, I've decided that it's time you all know the full truth about Pastor Nancy. I know you're not quite ready for this, but you're in trusted company. They can handle. They will hold the secret of Nancy's superpower that I have in my pocket. Nancy is a tuning fork for God. Nancy allows her heart, body, and spirit to ring at the vibration of love. And you know what happens when you make contact with a tuning fork? You start to ring at the same vibration, at the same pitch. I got to watch up close as incarcerated men and staff, many of whom often battled their own form of prison, came into contact with Nancy and discovered a ringing, a note, a sound within themselves that they never knew existed. I am a witness. Nancy rings at the frequency of love. To be fair, not all are ready to experience this. For those for whom love is connected to heartache and hurt, it can be too much, too overwhelming, too frightening. Because of this, Nancy, as we know, was often the target of others' fears. Sounds like that's been true most of your life. But Nancy, more often than not, allowed the love ringing within her to absorb and at times transform the fear. I'm a witness. Nancy rings at the frequency of love. Of course, I'm not telling you all anything that you don't already know. You know of what I speak because you too have been graced with proximity to her superpower. I bet if we're still enough, we can feel her frequency ringing in us now. Of course, it's worth remembering it's not really her frequency. It does not come from her, just through her. And so maybe ultimately her superpower is really helping us realize that we are tuning forks too. Thank you.
We're not done yet. This part of the program is the giving of gifts. And the first will be our distinguished pastor and guide. My distinguished pastor, Mayhan Sauber, will you please come and make our first presentation?
How you feeling? Overwhelmed. Oh, we all overwhelmed. 10 and 4. Super 1. We all are just overwhelmed. It's so much. But there's one thing missing. A couple of weeks ago when we were honoring and blessing Paula Dempsey, you said something that just shocked me. and did a lot of us. And you admitted you never been licensed to preach. You said it out loud. Oh my God, that's the way it worked when we started. First, get a license from a congregation to preach. And then if that goes so pretty good, you get ordained. And you never got licensed to preach. But we got time. Hey, we got about 24 more hours. And it just kind of fits, because you never took the road less traveled, as we've told many times. So I think it's okay if we can get this in before you retire. And so we got a license.
Thanks be to God.
Nancy, some people in driver's ed, you take driver's ed for maybe a semester before you get your learner's permit, and then you do that for a while, and then your license. Not many people take 40 years in driver's ed. You've had 40 years of preacher's ed. And we polled some people who said that indeed you have passed the vision test. You have passed the signs and wonders test. And so the congregation will be able to vote in just a minute. So we have here to present to the congregation, to present to you, certificate of license. This is not for federal identification. This is, let me get it up to the, there you go, that's good. That's good enough. Anyhow, let me read it. This is to certify Nancy Hastings Sehested, who has given evidence that God has called him, scratched out him and her, into the gospel ministry. We couldn't find one that just said her. Finally, licensed to preach the gospel as he, cross out he, she, may have opportunities in her retirement and to exercise his, slash out his, her gifts in the work of the ministry by the Circle of Mercy Church of Asheville, NC, on the 28th day of August in the year of our Lord 2021. And all these certificates have a place for the clerk to sign. We didn't know where our clerk was, so we had Clerk Emeritus Megan Silent and co-pastor Misty Harris. But Nancy, this license, like many of license, comes with restrictions. May only preach between the hours of 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. May preach with no more than 2 passengers in the pulpit at any given time. All congregants must wear a seatbelt while listening to the sermon, and no cell phone use while preaching. And Nancy, being the generous person she is, you have the little red heart down here, she is a church organ donor, willing to donate her Wurlitzer, Hammond, Rogers, Allen, and Kahn organs to the people. We got a little one to frame that one and put up on your wall, but here's the one to carry around.
There you go. Yeah. All right. It's close. We just made it. You're almost licensed to preach, but we need a vote. All right? Everybody in favor of affirming that Nancy Hastings Sehested has the license to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. If you affirm that, say a hearty amen. 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 It's complete.
Are you ready? Oh my God. On behalf of the youth, Aiden will now present.
If you can't see over here,
make sure that you look. Multiply this by like at least 5 times.
Maybe 10.
Probably 10. Back in the day, in a building not far away, Circle kids would meet to build a big tree. Got it? No slacking over there. Do it. Get on it. It had flour and eggs and frosting galore. Sprinkles piled on top. More! More! More!
Okay.
It was known by a name revered in Sunday school halls. Shouts of
Cookie Palooza!
Again!
Cookie Palooza!
Cookie Palooza would bounce off the walls. Come the 1st of December, anticipation would rise and kids would start plotting this great surprise. Baking would start. Long tables were covered with all sorts of tools in tubs. So much clutter. Tables and floors, fingers and faces, everything was laden with sticky traces. And in that day before masks became hip, ladles and fingers and lips were all lit. And no one wondered why the kid's story that eve was met with wiggles and squirms, distractedly received.
Sugar overdose.
Then packed into boxes, cartons, and trays, and tucked into cars awaiting that day, these treats, this heavenly feast, would take to the road and travel due east. Of course, this was one of Nancy's great schemes. Bringing joy to others, well, you could count on that theme. Marian prison mates could never quite venture a guess at what their brave chaplain had tucked up her sleeve next. These sticky treats landed behind doors locked and secure. For a brief moment, weary souls found a cure. With fingers and faces showing nearly forgotten traces, some memories were hopefully restored of home places. Nancy always finds ways to make different worlds meet. This time, it was on the back of goo-covered trees. Only a small glimmer of hope in a rather dim place. But even so tiny an act was a great item of grace. So if you're brave, nostalgic, or just need something more, take a bite of this beast, part of Nancy's vast repertoire.
This next presenter is your partner in gymnastics from the youth camp. Sydney Mark will now make a presentation.
So today I have a few presents for Jaja, otherwise known as Pastor Nancy, as we all know. The first present, my lovely friend Abby here will present. I did not write anything, so I'm just going to wing it. So, a while back on Christmas, we did and we went out to the barn and we did like a Christmas pageant. And my mom scrolled up on this picture and then I was like, oh my gosh, we need to recreate this. And so we went out to the barn and we recreated this photo of me and Sydney from when I was either like 5 or 6 or 2, 3, I don't know. You look about 0. And here it is.
Oh, that's so great.
Second gift I have for you today is we have collected blessings and words from all your friends across the circle and the country, some even farther. Together, these blessings make up this book that we are giving to you, so you know exactly how many friends you have made a difference to. Anytime you miss us, just look back to this book to remember how much we will miss you and how much we love you. Without further ado,
We could not be finished without hearing from the church council.
Oh my gosh.
It's your evaluation, your exit. Sydney, be kind and gentle.
How I'm supposed to follow that. Nancy, you are so very loved, and the congregation has come together to give you this gift.
Oh my gosh.
And we hope that you will use it to travel or explore or adventure or do something that feeds your soul, because you have fed us all so well. Thank
We're going to close with, I guess, our favorite closing song now, which we got from Nancy. Nancy heard the song and said, hey, can we learn this? Go in peace, go in kindness, go in love, go in faith, leave the day behind us, day is done, go in grace, let us go into the dark, not afraid and not alone. Let us hope by some good pleasure safely to arrive home. Let us hope by some good pleasure safely to arrive at home.
Amen.
Thank you for all you made this evening possible. It wouldn't have been possible without this whole community. So thank you so much. Go in peace into this evening. And Nancy might want to say something. She's probably got a sermon here. Nancy.
She's got a license.
Now that I'm licensed to preach, you may all be seated. I have a few words to say. Thank you. This is incredible. Thank you. Love you. Go in peace.